Live from MMA Fighting Studios, this is Between the Links. And now, your host, Mike Heck.
The iconic voice of Esther Lynn welcomes you to a brand new edition of BTL. Happy Thursday to us all. And, you know, when we do shows like this, the one thing we hope for is that we have things to talk about. And holy crap, do we have things to talk about on today's program. Doing the Q&A today because really there's one massive topic and I'm sure there's 8 billion questions about it. So we figured, hey, let's just go live and let's talk about that. And if you guys have other things to talk about, we'll talk about that as well. And joining me to discuss those things and much more is the hot take kid himself, Mr. No Gray Area, the climber of all climbers, the one and only Jed Bashu, who is multitasking away, and he's got a 4 on the board for UFC Vegas 111.
That is correct, Mike. Glad to be here. I've had the last 2 days off, which was just terrific. Saw some films, relaxed. I don't know the last time I got 2 days off in a row that I didn't specifically request off. It reminds me of people, you know, most people have weekends. That's not really a thing for us. And it was like, I woke up yesterday, I was like, oh my goodness, this is another, what does one do when you have back-to-back days off? I was productive, I'm refreshed, and I'm ready to talk. I don't know what we're going to talk about because there's nothing going on. Certainly no scandals afoot in the world of MMA. So probably a boring show, but 4 fights above replacement for this weekend.
Yes, not much to talk about, so maybe we should just wrap the show up here. Let's just call it a day, and you know, controversy, alleged controversies. I guess we should be very clear about what we're about to get into because, as Elizabeth said, so very, very much to discuss, and a lot of it has to do with the gambling side of the UFC. There is some controversy that stems from UFC Vegas 111 this past weekend. And poor
Michael,
yes.
The chat is requesting that you pump up the volume for you, sir. Apparently, I sound lovely because I project. You know, I'm a theater kid, Mike. It comes from the diaphragm, but apparently your volume is a little low.
That's not good. You
did sound lower to me. You sound better now, but chat, keep us updated.
All right, I think we're okay now.
I think you sound much better currently.
Okay, we boosted us up a little bit, so hopefully that is what we got here. And if it's not, please correct me. But I think we are louder. I think we are better. I got some.
I'm seeing betters in the chat. So
terrific.
Okay.
Okay. So for those of you who have been living under a rock, and for the millions and millions and millions of people who chose to do something better on their Saturday this past weekend, if you missed UFC Vegas 110, you missed some craziness because poor Steve Garcia gets the biggest win of his career in a main event, and he is like the 6th biggest story to come out of this card. Waldo Cortez Acosta has one of the craziest sequences in a heavyweight MMA fight. A week after Tom Aspinall is poked in the eye by Cyril Gane, Waldo Cortez Acosta is poked in the eye. We thought he lost to Ante Delgaren. Then it was maybe going to be a no contest. And then Waldo comes back and gets the finish. That's like the 3rd biggest story on this card because the biggest story coming out of this event happened in a featherweight bout between Isaac Dulgarian and Yadier Dvali. And Jed, I'm sure you were paying close attention to the betting lines, you being our gambling guy. Isaac Dulgarian, by the time we were doing the People's Pre-Fight Show, was a minus 250 favorite on FanDuel. He was a pretty sizable favorite all week. And then we started seeing on social media that the line was starting to close a little bit. And depending on which site you go through, Dulgarian, I think, closed as like a minus 160 or a minus 155. And there were round 1 props that were coming in big on the Del Valle side, which forced books to actually pull it all together. And then the fight plays out. We're wondering why. And Dulgarian just gets dusted up by Yadier Dvali. Daniel Cormier is talking about how he's not really trying to defend the rear naked choke that ends the fight. And since then, all sorts of speculation has come out, allegations against Isaac Dulgarian, some possible alleged fight fixing. There's all sorts of craziness going on. This reminds us of about 3 years ago around the same time when Derek Minner lost to Shiela Nurdenbecka, the whole James Krause situation. And then almost 3 years to the day, we're back doing this again because Isaac Dulgarian loses the fight. He is subsequently released by the UFC. And since then, so much reporting has come out. So much of just all these different allegations have come to light. We've seen fighters say things and then delete the tweets or social media posts. We've seen so much happen. Even Dana White has come out and did what Dana White normally does when bad things happen. He doesn't want to talk to the clickbait media. No, he wants to talk to TMZ because they wouldn't do clickbait stuff. And that's basically the UFC statement on everything that has happened. I have reached out to pretty much everybody. Nobody is saying a thing about it. We have had reporting from the likes of Ariel Helwani. We've seen Harry Mack all over Twitter throwing a bunch of stuff up there. He's pretty much opened everybody's eyes to a lot of this stuff. Some have been confirmed. Some of the stuff he said has not. But Jed, as a guy who hosts a gambling show for MMAfighting.com, as a guy who plays the ponies, so to speak, part of your job, you also write gambling columns and such. What is your reaction to all this? We're 5 days removed from UFC Vegas 110. This is a wild story, is it not?
My honest to God reaction is I wonder if this one sticks, right? Because like this is not the first time that something akin to this has happened. Derek Minner was last year, right? Like that whole situation.
It was 2022.
That was 2022. Good gracious, time does not have meaning anymore. But like I remember that, I remember us being on this show. I remember us talking on other shows and being like, what are the long ranging consequences of this? Right. Nothing was proved. Allegations were made, there may still be an ongoing legal matter attached to that. I'm honestly not sure at this point. And James Krause basically got run out of the sport. But like, I remember at the time, Mike, us being like, oh yeah, this is going to happen. This is part and parcel of the sport in general, of sports writ large. And certainly the history of combat sports has long been intertwined with gambling and fixed fights. Like that's why fixed fights is such a common phrase thing. That's why even today, I wrote about this week. Today, when a bad boxing decision comes down or something questionable, everybody's like, yeah, boxing's fixed, boxing's rigged. So there's a lot of overlap with these sorts of allegations, this sort of thing. And the bill is going to come due at some point. I thought the Derek Minner situation would be it because I've been on record multiple times. Honestly, I think last month I was talking about it, maybe on Submission Radio. And then this happened to happen where it was like fight fixing, throwing fight, fraudulent wagering, etc. Not just in combat sports, but in all sports happens. It's not a huge part of it for the most part, but it does happen. But it doesn't happen. Like I would be shocked if, Conor McGregor threw a fight because the money at the top is so different, right? Like why would you jeopardize that for not as much money or the risks inherent with it? But at the bottom makes a lot more sense. And I've always thought that MMA in particular, and reasonably this extends to boxing or pre-existed in boxing, is more prone to it because if you are a league min player in the NBA, Mike, do you know how much what a league minimum player in the NBA makes?
$700,000.
It's over $1 million at this point in time. That's the guaranteed contract, not for like a 10-day, but for like a full thing, you make $1 million. I'm not, if I'm that dude, I'm not going to jeopardize making $1 million a year to throw a thing like that just doesn't happen. But if I'm a low-end fighter who's probably on, a 10-10, 15-15 contract, I can make a substantial amount of money to take a dive, to do something like this. And you shouldn't do that. It's obviously like a bad thing to do, but I'm just being a realist about financial incentives and the way the world works. Like, people pursue crime largely as a result of they don't think they'll get caught, and there's a financial incentive to do so. And it is much more likely for MMA, where fighters don't make nearly what they do in other professional sports leagues, to do this. And kind of to put a bow on this, Mike, we just saw this is also a thing in other sports leagues where they make way more money. That whole thing is coming down. And I think because of that, I have more belief that something will happen, that this will be a more sustained and prolonged investigation with, rooting it out, as it were. But I really thought that would happen with Derek Minner, and that sort of just disappeared. And so it's possible that, in 2 months' time, we're not talking about this, which will be very strange to me.
Yeah, because the Krause thing was crazy because, they basically ran him out of the sport. Not only that, they basically said, if you plan to be associated with this guy in any way, you too will also be banned from the sport. And I know like Brandon Moreno was training there at the time, and there were a lot of other guys.
I think that was the absolute correct decision, by the way.
Yeah, which I agree. Minner was released, and Jeff Molina got a 3-year suspension, I believe, as well, which I believe his suspension just ended. Derek Minner had got a 29-month suspension. There's a whole lot that sort of came from this, and then it just sort of, like you said, went away. People were wondering, like, what's going on with James Krause? And, we were trying to update people on the story for the next few months, and I was getting some different things that I was trying to confirm with multiple sources, and then the story just disappeared, and Krause has been, he's left MMA, and he's doing the real estate thing now, and all this stuff continues to go on, and Dana White did his interview with TMZ and said the Krause thing is still under investigation right now, because just sort of looking at the landscape of this, Isaac Delgarian is a guy who originally was found by James Krause and fought for his promotion when they did the whole Nelk Boys thing. So a lot of this is at least perceived to be allegedly tied to this. And who knows? I mean, everything we say here today is
wildly speculative.
Yeah. And even that, we're trying to like avoid crossing over that line with all of this. But even Dana White said, this is what he said to TMZ. We called the fighter and his lawyer and said, what's going on? There's some weird betting action going on in your fight. Are you injured? Do you owe anybody money? Has anybody approached you? And the kid said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to kill this guy. So we said, okay, the fight plays out. First round finish by rear naked choke. Literally the first thing we did was call the FBI. So we called the FBI. I've met with the FBI twice today as that interview came out. So Dana sort of took a stance. He confirmed some of the reporting. The 100 fights under investigation thing, Dana called quote unquote clickbait. There's a whole bunch of this that I sort of want to break down, but just listening to Dana's reaction to this, and I think he kind of did what he was supposed to do. He was trying to, hey, if you do this,
handled it well.
Yeah, I thought he handled it well too.
I think he's handled it well. I've been critical about Dana for a lot of things. I think they are handling this appropriately.
Yeah, it was. We're separating ourselves from this, but if you do this, you're going to be our worst enemy in the world, and you definitely don't want that. So, outside of you just sort of agreeing with Dana taking the appropriate stance, so to speak, what did you think of the interview with TMZ?
Dude, there's so many facets to the story, because like, I didn't realize until a couple of days ago when I think you said it in a meeting or something about Dulgarian being connected to Krause. And then again, massively speculative. This could be deeply untrue, what I'm about to say. But like my brain just started turning to, okay, there are reports, as you mentioned, that, hundreds of fights are under investigation. I'll point out, under investigation is a very broad tent pole that could be like, we watched the fight to see because it was this guy fighting or whatever. And my reaction when you kind of connected those dots for me was like, man, we haven't really heard from James Krause. And I don't know that James Krause did anything illegal. I want to be very, very clear about that. There's obviously a belief that something shady afoot happened with the Derek Minner situation, but I don't know what or what. I genuinely don't remember that anything was proved. But, you know, in such situations, it wouldn't shock me for James Krause to be facing at least some sort of a legal backlash if there was any credence to this. And also, similarly, you know, per the reports, this investigation's been going on for some time. Seemed like years were involved here. And so it is within the realm of possibility that, you know, James Krause got in the box and this opened up a can, and that's what they've been investigating all this time. I am less likely to believe that this is a massive ongoing conspiracy, because in general, you just probably shouldn't believe in conspiracies unless there's like a lot of proof to it, as opposed to like, I believe fights have been fixed. I want to be very clear. I believe fights have been fixed in the UFC, and I believe fights have been fixed more than the ones that we actively know about, because there are certainly a few in the past that like we can definitively say were fixed. I think that this sort of thing happens. I think it probably happens way less than random people might believe, but any amount of it happening is too much, and certainly too much for the brand to sustain. I think that is why the UFC and Dana White have been so forceful in this, because you can't have the stain of this remotely tied to your organization. It would erode the credibility. The only sport in the world that, and sport is a loose term here, that, you know, can be functionally tied to like fixed outcomes is pro wrestling. Every other sport, this just can't be part of it, because people will not sustain it. And, you know, the NBA had what the hell is that ref's name, Mike?
Oh, Tim, damn it.
Yeah, I can't think of it. That whole thing like was huge, but then eventually went away because there is a broad confidence in the brand and that this was rooted out. Combat sports is a much darker history of this sort of thing, and it's a much harder stain to get off if it stays tied. So I think that's why they've been so vociferous about this. I think that's the correct stance to take. And if it does turn out that this is some sort of like genuine conspiracy, everybody needs to be prosecuted. Everybody that involved needs to go to jail. And we have to make sure this doesn't become like just part of the narrative of the sport, which Mike is then going to make my next statement interesting. I don't think Dulgarian was in on it.
It's
a hot take. It's a hot take.
Okay. Explain.
I do not believe that Isaac Dulgarian, I am not saying that something shady didn't happen. That is a pretty sizable amount of money invested in functionally a prelim fight. I think it was like a 16 million handle on it or something like that is what I read. I don't know if that's true or not, so please don't quote me on it. And clearly like significant line movement. And look, the two basic premises I'm operating on here are, if sportsbooks pull a bet down, there is a high likelihood that they at least believe there is the possibility that something has occurred. And if sportsbooks offer refunds and or credits, which many of them have done, there's a super high likelihood that something has happened, just because sportsbooks are in the business of taking your money, not giving it back. So all of that as preface, I have watched that fight a bunch of times now. Again, I am absolutely open to the idea that something shady happened, because the betting movement all suggests it. But when I watch that fight, Isaac Dulgarian does not appear like a fighter who is throwing the fight, which means one of two things. Either you believe that Isaac Dulgarian, not you specifically, Mike, the royal you here, either you believe Isaac Dulgarian intentionally threw this fight and is an exceptional actor, or my belief, which is that Isaac Dulgarian entered this fight heavily compromised and fought as such. Because if he was trying to take a dive, he had a lot of opportunities to do so, right? I came to this fight after the fact, Mike. The controversy had bloomed by the time I went and watched it, because I was not working this weekend. It's my grandfather's 90th birthday. Shout out. I came to this thinking this was going to be much more suspect than it looked. I think Isaac Dulgarian did not look his best by any stretch of the imagination. But, I mean, Dvali was on his back for an extended period of time. Multiple times was like in position to choke him, and Dulgarian did not tap. And if the guy's throwing the fight, he could just tap. Like he could have at any point could have. He took some unnecessary shots if he was trying to throw the fight. I think, and also as part and parcel of this, if you think Dulgarian was throwing the fight, then you think Dvali sucks. Because to struggle to actually finish an opponent who is actively attempting to help you, he would just be trash if he couldn't have finished that fight sooner. I think Dulgarian was heavily compromised and not, in the TJ Dillashaw, Aljamain Sterling sense of the man, he never had a reasonable opportunity to fight and compete actively in this one. But I don't think he entered this fight and was like, I'm going to take a dive. Because I think if he was going to, he would have tapped out the first time Dvali got on his back and put a choke in, as opposed to doing some level of defense. Even if, Michael Chiesa is like, that was dog shit. Okay. It still took him a while to get it. I don't think he was throwing the fight in the strictest sense of the word.
Yeah, I mean,
or if you think so, you think he's a really you think this is a high level con because he is approaching this and he's not a good enough actor to make you not realize that he's totally heaving, but he is a good enough actor to defend to a point and to try and make it look good. Like that's a real narrow window to hit. And I think you're giving Isaac Doe, anybody who thinks it is giving him way more credit than he deserves. That just looked like a dude who wasn't physically fit to fight and got in a fist fight.
So the whole not defending the choke, and early in the fight, he gets a double leg and it's locked in and it looks like he's got to easily get a takedown and doesn't. These are two pivotal moments in the fight that people are sort of looking at
the double leg is the one that it is the most suspect to me because he gets into position and can't finish it, but that also is explicable to me as I'm physically compromised. And so I don't have the same explosive defense. I don't know. I've watched it a lot. I've talked about it with other people who I consider knowledgeable. And it's just yeah, man, he could have tapped at any point in time. There was a lot of opportunity. And I'm not saying he put up his best defense. If I'm throwing the fight, I'm just going to tap. You don't not tap. If you are complicit in a scheme to throw a fight, the first time there's a choke on, you just tap. You're just oh gosh, shit. Oh, I couldn't do it or whatever. And that's it. That's not what happened.
I'm trying to find, where is it? Yadier Dvali's statement. You go out there, you break the favorite fighter to the betting houses. I impose a high level of grappling to all who doubted me and bet against me. I'm glad you lost your money. Those who believed in me and bet me despite not to be the favorite, I'm glad I made them win a lot of money. I don't even know if that was the actual one. But he said a lot of stuff. He was the whole thing was I beat this dude. Stop saying it was a fight fix. It was me just being better than him.
I don't feel great about that, but
I do feel for him though, because
he's just in a tough.
Yeah, he's in a terrible position because he's not going to get credit for the win at all. And is regardless of how he looked and what people believe his ceiling to be. And I think he is pretty good in a solid hand. I don't know if he's going to be a guy to fight for a belt or anything like that, but he's very good. This just sours the win a little bit. So that was one of my bigger takeaways from all of this is man, Yadier Dvali is in a tough spot. He probably shouldn't say anything, especially the whole, I just beat the shit out of this dude. I'm the best. I'm just better than him. Because obviously that's not the best look. And whether the alleged fight fixing thing rings true or not, you definitely didn't get the best Isaac Dulgarian that night. And that's not on him. You fight the dude that's in front of you, and however the fight goes, it goes. Here's probably my biggest takeaway of all of this. And while I think Dana did a good job with the response and the UFC stance on it, because they always go to TMZ for this. This if you're looking for an official Dana White statement for anything really bad, they go to TMZ, and I'm sure they write out the questions to be asked verbatim, essentially, and then Dana will essentially give his statement. we called the fighter and his lawyer and said, there's some weird betting action going on in your fight. Are you injured? Do you know anybody money? Has anybody approached you? And the kid said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to kill this guy. And you have this U.S. Integrity IC 360 company, who, by the way, has not said a friggin' word about this, or the Handgate situation from the Rio card, because I've reached out multiple times to them. They are literally not responding or saying anything. Why, in God's name, would you even risk putting this fight on the card? Like, if this is a flagged fight from the agency that you pay to monitor your betting activity. If this one is flagged as being weird, why even risk it? Why even allow this fight to happen? Because, it's better to be safe than sorry, even if you just find out like Dulgarian's injured, or, we'll just not have this fight happen. Like, why would they do this? I don't understand why they allowed this fight to go through with all of this happening. That's like my biggest takeaway from everything Dana said was, well, this has been flagged. You called the fighter and his lawyer. Why not just pull it? It's not a meaningful fight on the card. Just yank it. No one's going to say, oh shit, I can't watch. I'm dumping ESPN Plus because Isaac Dulgarian, Yadier Dvali is not happening.
I don't know. I don't love the precedent that sets, because you have no basis, right? Your basis is that the betting lines are questionable.
You have basis. This just happened literally on the same day 3 years ago. The same exact thing. The same line movement, the same first round props, everything outside of we knew Menor was injured when the fight was over.
Yeah.
You can't do this every time, but like,
one, that's the thing. Like, you're just setting a precedent of like, okay, every time the line movement, like every time someone makes a big bet, we're now getting shady about it. It's just like, I think it is a much better situation to like let it go through and prosecute to the full extent of the law after the fact, as opposed to letting gambling markets dictate whether fights can or cannot proceed. I think that is just not a space to be in, frankly. So and like, people dogged him for like the Dana being like, we called Dulgarian and we're like, are you going to fight or whatever? Like, what else do you expect him to do? Like, he can't, like, they're pretty limited. Let's say, like, they're pretty limited in their ability to like pre-crime this, like it's Minority Report or whatever. It's just like, hey, we asked him, we believed him when he said he was going to fight this dude. Okay. Like, yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to pull the fight on the suspicion of it, in which case nothing untoward has happened. So then how do you proceed after that? Right? Like, okay, we're going to cancel this fight because we think it's suspect. Dulgarian could be like, well, that's bullshit. I was going to kill this dude. I didn't do anything wrong. Give me another fight. Are you just going to start cutting him because you think like, I think that takes you down a place that's like thing. Whereas the other outcome is this, which isn't great. Nobody's excited about what's happened. I think it's better to be like, yeah, we're going to cut you because a thing has happened that's wildly suspicious, as opposed to we're going to cut you because a thing might happen that's wild. Like, I don't like that move.
I don't know. I like, obviously we see some line movement and stuff, but not like this. So I don't know. I'm curious how this is going to change anything, because let's just say, like, for some reason we see this again on Saturday. Not that I think we will, because it'd be really dumb. I mean, all this is really dumb anyways, if this turns out to be true. But
so we're clear. Also, I'm rewatching this right now. He continuously fights the hands. Like, I'm not saying this is the world's greatest choke. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that he didn't enter this fight in a way that he could, like, knew he was going to compete. I believe that this line movement was not, something unforeseen. I think somebody got word that Isaac Dulgarian, not at his best or whatever. But like, I'm literally watching people like, he didn't defend. He punched him in the back of the head. We see that happen all the time. People do stupid shit constantly in fights. He does defend. He defends for a good little while, and then he gets choked out. Like,
basically, a lot of the defense was him trying to punch over his head, though.
People do that literally all the time in this fight, like in this sport. That is like a common thing. It's like, how many times we watch fight, like, that dude's punching and he's in mount. That's dumb. Like, people do dumb shit. Like, I don't again, my personal belief is that something rotten in Denmark has happened. I don't entirely believe that Isaac Dulgarian was an active participant in it. He may have been a passive one. I don't believe it was an active one.
We heard from his head coach, Mark Montoya of Factory X, who went on Ariel's show and said, yeah, talked to him Sunday. He said, I don't believe Isaac will ever fight again. And then he said, essentially, you're no longer part of our team. So, yeah, Mark and Factory X they're trying to separate themselves from this entire situation as well. So
everyone should get as far away from it as they possibly can.
Yeah. So one of the things you brought up earlier, and then we'll take other questions. I mean, we'll take more questions about this, obviously, if you want to talk about this, but we can talk about other stuff as well, is that the Minner James Krause thing happened, and it was a big story for, I'll say, like 3 to 6 months. We were talking about it all the time. We were looking into different things. We knew it was under investigation. We knew the federal prosecutors were involved. We knew it was being looked into. There was a lot of stuff that I'd heard about it, but nothing that like was on the record or anything like that. And then it just died. It just went away and we didn't hear from it again. And now 3 years later, we're back into it. Is this going to be something that is going to be on the radar past like the 6-month period? So let's just say like August of 2026, we're still talking about this. We have found out the fate of anybody involved, and we get more information about this than we did about the Derek Minner, Shailin Nurdenbecka fight.
It'll depend. And it will depend on what happens in the coming weeks and months, because, you know, there are a lot of rumors flying around. I certainly don't want to make accusations on this podcast or anywhere. But like, if some of the stuff, there are specifically rumors flying around about investigations into one referee specifically, who I will not name because this is exclusively a rumor and I'm not going to propagate that without any basis for it. Right. If that is even has a kernel of truth to it, right, then this becomes a much bigger thing. It is a fundamentally different story here, Mike. If, you know, let's say tomorrow, for the sake of argument, Isaac Dulgarian comes out and admits it, right? He's like, I did it. You know, the mob influenced me or whatever it is. I did it thing. And it's part of a string of incidents with me and X other people that are all in cahoots on this. That would be a huge scandal and a huge story. And that story would die down fairly quickly because there's a definitive clear end to it. It's a set number of actors and there's no institutional like paradigm involved, which to some extent is like how the Minner situation was handled, right? There was an absence of a definitive clear end to it, but it was like, okay, we're going to put these people in a box and that box is over here. And now we can stop thinking about it because it's handled. Same sort of situation can handle here. If any of the other stuff that has been alleged or rumored, again, has any kernel of truth, if there is any connection to shady business via any referee or official, I mean, this thing is going mega in a bad way, because that is a much bigger scandal. It is a scandal if a fighter throws a fight or if a couple of fighters work together to throw fights. That is a scandal. It is a much, much different level of scandal if an official, someone who is either a judge, a referee, somebody who has influential power over the outcomes of bouts outside of the two competitors, gets implicated in this. Because holy shit, man. Like, every fighter who ever was refereed by the person implicated or judged by the person implicated would be like, well, I got a raw deal. It would spiral in such a bad way. So if that happens, then we're going to be talking about this for years, probably. It'll just depend, right? Like, there's probably some smoke to some fires here if the FBI has been investigating for an extended period of time, but maybe there's not. It's hard to know exactly how far reaching this will be because we don't have that much information, frankly.
So we will hear from the Nevada Athletic Commission on November 19th. That is 2 weeks from yesterday. I don't think there's like anything on the docket just yet officially. But something to keep an eye on. I mean, we'll know more about it. I think the closer we get to it, you can go to the website, you can see like who's on the docket and what's it about. So I would be stunned if Isaac Dulgarian's name is not on the docket.
Yeah, that's very likely.
So maybe we'll find out more. That was kind of like how it all started with the Krause thing. Is I think the UFC actually like officially were the ones that are like Krause and Minner are suspended. Krause is out of the organization. He's banned essentially from all of this.
Stop getting coached by him.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, I mean, this isn't going to be the last of this, I'm sure. So,
Buddy, there are a couple of things that I'm just like frankly fascinated in the next coming weeks. One, I'm not saying the ref's name because I'm not going to be involved in this. It's out there. And if I am a fighter and the referee whose name has been thrown out, whether that has any bearing of truth or not, I don't want that. I don't want him to ref me, right? Like, are fighters going to respond to this in a way that would frankly be rational, right? To be like, nope, don't want that to happen because I can't feel confident. Fighters try to reject referees all the time because they think inherent or implicit biases. If I'm a professional fighter or I'm a coach, I absolutely don't want a referee or a judge, an official who has any sort of potential stain attached to them to be involved in my shit. Not at all. How's that going to play out? What does it look like? Because I won't say a bunch. Multiple fighters came out and said stuff. Just started tweeting, Mike, about like, I've been approached X, Y, and Z. And a lot of those fighters deleted that shit because you should never say a goddamn thing. Shut your mouths. That is not official legal advice because I can't give you that anymore. But it is always better to shut the F up. It's just always better to do that. And them all walk like that. Multiple fighters said something and then retracted it. The internet lives forever. That's out there. That's not a good look. What happens there? Why are we doing this? The next couple of weeks are going to be really interesting, and then we'll determine how months and years play out in the future.
Yeah, the fighters were Vince Morales, Vanessa Demopoulos, and Lando Venata, who all came out and said they were approached by somebody. Some people even threw out dollar figures. I think Morales said $70K or something like that. And then, yeah, those tweets were deleted, or it was a joke. Ha ha. I know Lando did the same thing, but
that's honestly a better move to at least say it was a joke, but like, just shut the hell up. Somebody asked me, it's like, does Isaac Dulgarian being quiet, does that make him look guilty? It's like, I don't know. It makes him not a dumbass. Don't say a goddamn thing. Like, just shut the hell up, because let your attorney speak if you're at all connected to this, and don't offer up. If you're not connected, stay unconnected. Don't throw your hat in here. There's no need.
And that's essentially what Dana said in the thing was like, I'm okay. You came forward and said stuff. So now you're going to have to talk to the FBI. So congratulations. You did the thing.
Yeah. I will say, I don't know if it's a joke or not. I have no concept. I did at least think Lando's was funny, right? Like, for whatever, if that was a joke, it was a good joke. If it was real, it was still funny, right? Like, I've been approached, and I believe you can see that I didn't take the money based on my record is a pretty funny way to do it. But don't do it. Just shut the hell up. It's way better.
Yeah. I mean, there are people like, there are reports out there. Ariel said that he's gotten texts from a bunch of people who said they were approached. He even told a story of a fighter who was not involved in anything like this, but someone bet a good amount of money on them, went to the gym and was like, here's your cut. Congrats. Great job. Thank you for winning me money. And then the fighter turned it down. So yeah, there's just so much to the story. And if they really like dig into this, and I'm sure, like, look, at the end of the day, I'm sure Isaac, if something is going on, this is all innocent until proven guilty. I'm sure he doesn't want to go to friggin' prison. So if there is somebody involved, maybe we'll get more to light on this. I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen with all this. So hopefully this is a crackdown. Someone asked earlier, and then I'm going to have everybody like re-ask their questions because I don't want to scroll up 7,000 comments at this point. But does this affect how you look at betting on the sport now? Because you do the show on the watch parties, we bet, you more serious than I, but are you more hesitant, so to speak, about placing a wager on a UFC fight after these allegations?
Oh, no, not at all. Again, to me, it's part of the calculus, right? I have always thought that this is a thing that can and will happen in small doses. I do not think it is a major part of the sport. If it turns out that that's wrong, well, the whole sport's going to come for a reckoning, right? Like if it turns out that the hundreds of fights that they have reportedly investigated, they've all been fixed, then, well, we've got a scandal to talk about for generations, and I will probably be less happy betting on things. And I'll tell you this, Mike, if it comes out that one of my climbs got ruined,
oh, God.
I'll be furious, absolutely furious. But I mean, again, I've always approached sports gambling as it is a fun thing to do. It's supposed to be fun. That there is, an element of risk, and so that's sort of baked into the price. I do, though, think that the prevalence of sports betting now that it has been legalized in many, many states in this nation, they make that a more interesting question. Like just from a personal standpoint, I'm okay with it, right? Like again, I was doing this. I don't know the statute of limitations on some things that I may or may not admit online. So I'm going to stop that statement. Thing. Before sports betting became broadly legal, if you were going to embark on it and you weren't in, the state of Las Vegas or New Jersey or whatever, by the state of Las Vegas, I mean the state of Nevada. I called myself the state of Nevada or, wherever. It was a seedier undertaking in the same way that poker used to be a seedier undertaking. And honestly, maybe that makes it a little bit better in some ways because this shouldn't be like everywhere probably. But, these are the times we live in, and it is so prevalent now that I think that makes a huge difference to how people broadly will approach the sport. And it's, again, part and parcel to why the UFC is reacting in such a strong stance to it and why I support them reacting in such a strong stance. But personally, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I have probably wagered on fights that have, not even straight up. Like, I think most people would draw a line, right, between what TJ Dillashaw did against Aljamain Sterling, that they would not call that a fixed fight per se, but that fight was functionally fixed in that he had no reasonable chance to compete. Like no rational person would have thought he could have won that fight. And even Dillashaw himself was like, I probably knew I wasn't going to win, but this was the only title fight I was ever going to get again. So I had to do it. I straight up, I bet on TJ Dillashaw on that fight. I actively lost money as a result of a fight that was predetermined functionally. So I think it's just part and parcel of getting involved in the game, but many people will not agree with that. And it's not wrong for them to not agree with that. Because it has become so legalized, there is an expectation of, things being above board.
Yeah, I remember interviewing TJ Dillashaw like 3 or 4 days before that fight. And he said, there's something going on right now. I can't talk about it. I'll reveal it after the fight, but rest assured, essentially, that I still think I'll win anyways. And then finding out all that, I was like, holy crap. Like, that was crazy. I also had a bet on TJ Dillashaw in that fight. And truly one of the worst bets I've ever had. So let's continue on with this.
And it's hard to draw the line, right? Because again, I'm not making an outright accusation. My belief is that it is more likely that Dulgarian was severely injured and or compromised. And so the functional outcome is the same. He had no reasonable expectation to win, and he lost, and that sucks, right? I'm not diminishing that. At what point does it become functionally fraud versus like thing? Because the other part of this too, and I'm not necessarily saying this this is what happens, but or what happened in this instance. We see fighters compete compromised all the time. Like, and there's the adage that no fighter enters a fight 100%, right? But those dials get turned based on things, and all the time we hear like, oh yeah, I was super jacked up, but I didn't want to disappoint the boss, or like I needed the paycheck. I needed medical insurance, and this was the only way I could get it because that's how the UFC's medical policy works. It is tied to fights. Like the way things are structured creates more opportunity for things like that to happen, right? Where like, again, I don't know if this is true or not. I think it is absolutely plausible. Maybe not the most likely outcome, but it is criminally plausible, right? Like if I'm an attorney doing a defense of Isaac Dulgarian, I believe it is a plausible outcome that Dulgarian needed the paycheck and could not withdraw from this fight as a result. And so he entered the fight severely compromised or needed the insurance money or whatever. And that people knew about that. And that is the explainer to the line shift. Maybe not the most likely outcome, right? Not a civil thing, but I think that is absolutely in play as an explanation for what has happened here.
Joseph asks, well, anytime a fight is canceled, AK a la Adrian Yanez, Christian Quinones this week, will we assume betting is the first reason why it is canceled?
100%. I straight up, like when we lost 2 fights or whatever for this weekend, then you look into it more and it's not, but like my first reaction was like, I wonder why. Like I think there's that, and that's just human nature, right? Like a major thing has occurred. People are going to tie 1 and 2 together, and it's not fair necessarily, but I think that certainly for a little while that will be a thing.
Yeah. No Adrian on this card. I was told, so he is off. Jackson McVeigh will fight. We got the email of like, it's so funny how the UFC kind of operates right now, because they send out these things of here's the full lineup, who's doing the commentary and stuff like that. They still have Adrian Yanez, Christian Quinones on the emailer. They have Dante Johnson, Jackson McVeigh on there as well. And I know for a fact that fight is not happening, because as we reported yesterday, that was plan B. Once Robert Valentin was withdrawn with an injured back, Dante Johnson, who beat Cedric Dumas last week, was going to try to get back in there and fight twice in a week, and the commission did not clear him, so he is not fighting. So Zach Reese is stepping in at a catchweight of 195. So that is the fight. And then if you go to the UFC's event page for the card, Yanez is not on here at all. That whole fight is off, but they still have Jackson McVeigh fighting Robert Valentin. So who the hell knows? It's a weird thing, and
it's a weird card in general, and then all of this makes it all a little weirder.
There's gonna be a cloud hanging over it for sure. Will the UFC continue having betting experts on their broadcast?
Yes.
Minty bets, 100%.
Yeah, look, that's
sponsorship money. You got to do it.
I do think this is. I think this is interesting in that I doubt that this will substantially change anything as far as the UFC goes, right? Like they're still going to put odds up on the graphics before fights would be my guess. I guess like maybe not. I would guess that they're still going to do that. And they should realistically, right? Like their contention is that they are handling this to the fullest extent that they're able to, and that this is not a prevalent thing, right? And knock on wood, I hope that both of those statements are true. And so, okay. Yeah. Also, we don't know for a fact that anything has happened. Just bears repeating at this point. I think MMA is both in a unique position of being more able to sustain something like this so long as it stays right here, right? Like, as I've mentioned previously, if this elevates, if officials, judges, referees, etc., get involved, I think this becomes vastly more damaging to the sport and brand. But because MMA kind of exists in that perpetual state of, it's MMA, they gotta do whatever. Like, they say crazy stuff and are overtly racist or whatever. Like, and everybody just gives it a pass because it still has a patina of, this countercultural weirdo thing. Like, the NBA is much less capable of handling this situation in this regard, where like they've got that going on and the allegations are much bigger, right? Just in general. But like, I am far more interested. I don't even care about the NBA. I'm deeply interested in how that storyline breaks down for them, because they are intertwined with gambling and they don't have the sort of like, it's MMA catch-all to fall back on. So it gets real weird for them real fast.
Yeah. And at least
plus the mafia's involved. It's crazy over there.
At least with the UFC, like this week's going to be terrible. Like, they're going to have to deal with this for this week. But then like once Saturday night is over, they could start plugging the shit out of UFC 322 and avert the attention of all this darkness to, hey, we're going to Madison Square Garden. We got these two big title fights. It would not shock me to the slightest to have the UFC announce the big fights for the Paramount card next week as well, to try to avert some attention. Not saying that it's directly.
They might not even need to. I think next week is just going to gobble up all the attention.
But
anyway.
I mean, we're getting damn close to January. Like, they're going
to have to. They're going to have to do that. Yeah, as just sort of a thing.
Ilya Topuria, Patty, or whoever he's fighting. Like, I would maybe not like during the time in New York, but I would say maybe like Monday. We're going to get Monday morning. We're getting ready for work. We're going to see that the big boss is going on Instagram later on today, and I think he's going to lay out a couple of those big fights.
Could easily be the thing. I'm going to walk back something I just said, actually, because I thought about it for a minute. It's possible that ESPN asked them to dial back the gambling coverage this week.
You think so?
It's possible. I still think it's more likely than not that nothing changes. But there was a deeply funny clip that made the rounds when the Terry Rozier stuff and the Chauncey Billups, I believe those are the two individuals involved in that, happened, where like ESPN, was doing their car wash show or whatever it was, the talking heads were going, and they have the ESPN bet Chiron at the bottom, and then they just pulled it because this probably isn't the best look. Let's just pull it. So it wouldn't stun me if they're like, hey, Yanni the Greek or Minty Betts, take a week off. We can fill content time with other stuff and maybe not put it in the face just because it's easy to do that. But I don't think the UFC would choose to do that. I think it is possible, though, again, maybe unlikely, that ESPN says, let's just scratch it for this week.
Wouldn't be the worst idea.
Which should also be fine. Like, you don't need gambling content. It is not a necessity to be part and parcel of broadcast.
Yeah. But I mean, if a company's paying you millions and millions of dollars, a la DraftKings, to promote their service.
Oh yeah. So we're clear. DraftKings isn't coming off the cage or whatever. Like the
odds are going to be off of the screen.
I suspect that that's true as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Does the UFC use DraftKings or do they use ESPN odds? Because on the website they use ESPN odds.
On the ESPN site?
On the UFC website they use ESPN odds. Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything is.
I'm like 96% sure that is true.
I mean, Anik DraftKings commercials are literally everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, ESPN is with DraftKings now as well. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that.
They signed like a 10-year deal.
They got rid of their ESPN bet. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so now they're with DraftKings. They were with Penn, so they ended it like 8 years early or something.
Well, funnily enough, and I wouldn't read into this, Mike, but I did just go to the UFC event page for this weekend, and there are no odds listed anywhere.
Yep, I did notice that as well.
And they usually have at least most of the odds up. That could be explained by any number of things, certainly.
They don't
but
even have
it
the right
also,
card up there, so.
But even you get to the right card, though, that could be explained by a lot. That is not necessarily significant, but something to note.
The bigger underlying issue that's going to come to light is the outward favoritism towards particular managers and agencies. I mean, yeah. I mean, like, I know Jason House is kind of the name that comes up a lot. And again, so we're clear, these are all allegations. Nothing has been proven. There's been no quote unquote crime committed to this point. The problem, the tough part is, if you're Jason, and by the way, I've reached out to Jason a couple of times, haven't heard anything back, and not just even about this, about other things in general.
Yeah, shut the hell up. That's the right move.
Yeah, hasn't said anything. Even just like trying to confirm fight news, nothing. And Jason and I, we're pretty cordial. So he's like the Kraus is a house guy, Minner is a house guy, Dulgarian is as well. And even like the fighters who have sort of responded in kind to all of this, the Vince Morales, the Vanessa Demopoulos, it's not great. Like just outside looking in, it doesn't look good aesthetically. But again, we don't know anything. So we have to make this perfectly clear when we talk about any of this stuff. So I understand.
There's almost nothing. And this might just be the attorney in me. And like, honest to God, straight up, my like defense of Dulgarian, like as I was like thinking it is what I believe. Like this is not just a take to take. I think it's true. I wouldn't bet my life on it, but like that's where I stand. Like as I was doing, I was like, this might just be attorney me, right? Like this, where it's just like, we don't know shit. Nothing. Like there is every part of it, even back to Minner and Kraus. It's all circumstantial. And like, there's a lot of it, right? There's significant circumstantial evidence. I haven't seen a bank statement that's like, here's where Isaac Dulgarian received $300,000 in a transfer via Venmo or whatever. And so like in the total absence of any hard facts, which is frankly what we are existing in, that we have one fact, like there's literally one piece of factual information, which is the line moved. It's hard to like be massively confident in any outcome or any truth to this.
We shall see. Moving on to something else. Dog is finding a new spot to lay down.
If somebody shows me that Dulgarian has 30 Bitcoins, I'll be like, okay, let's talk. That's a lot of Bitcoins, And if he can't be like, I mined them when I was 18 in college or whatever, be like, oh, like, but everything is so speculative right now. It makes 100%. It hard to like be confident in anything.
Yep. Shifting gears here. Joseph asks, what do you think of John Jones taking shots at Tommy Aspinall? Does John now think he can beat Tommy? So let me pull up the exact quote. Here's what John Jones said to the No Scripts podcast. Quote, Tom's a great athlete, but I do feel like he's a one-trick pony. I believe that his wrestling and jiu-jitsu is incredibly overrated. He has a beautiful 1-2. I got to learn a lot about his patterns in his last fight. That's really about it. That's the one thing that he's setting up real nice. He couldn't touch Cyril Gane at all. That's the way I felt. I felt like Gane was just getting warmed up. Gane's hands were down. He's shaking his shoulders, bouncing around. He was touching him. He was so uncomfortable. Your reaction to John Jones's comments about Tom Aspinall? I didn't even think we'd get anything from John on this regard, but there you have it.
Oh, I mean, John's always just going to talk. In answer to the direct question, I always thought that John thought he could beat him. I believe and will continue to believe that John recognized that there's a threat, that he could lose, and that the relative juice is not worth the risk, right? Like the risk reward ratio is simply not there for him. And I have maintained from day one that he's correct. That I believe he is correct. I wanted those two dudes to fight because I want to see the fight. If I was in John's camp, I would tell him to stop talking, but that's just a personal preference. I do not believe he mismanaged any of this, but for the reports that he asked for a number and tried to out negotiate himself and the UFC met it. That's a bad look. Right. But, he never needed to fight Tom. In 10 years, nobody is going to be like, John was a paper heavyweight champion, which he absolutely is. His heavyweight title is less significant than George St. Pierre's middleweight title, which is pretty close to fraudulent. It's not. It's technically not, but it's pretty papery. John's heavyweight belt is much more papery. But no one's going to give a shit in 10 years. No one's going to care because in 10 years, there will be a whole new group of fans and they'll look back and be like, yeah, John Jones is the greatest fighter of all time. And so in that sense, well, I think a win, I do and have always believed a win would be very meaningful for him over Tom Aspinall because it would firmly establish him as maybe not the best heavyweight in the world because he didn't beat Francis, but like a reasonable heavyweight champion and add something meaningful. He didn't need it. And I think he has been correct. And now he just gets to say shit, right? Like he gets to say this stuff because he's never going to fight him. He was never going to fight him. And the moment Tom Aspinall, again, Tom didn't lose. Super important to recognize that. The moment Tom looked anything other than an absolute world beater, he can just tweet because he can, or give interviews to, I don't know who this was to, sorry. And this is thing, but to me, he can say all he wants. He chose not to fight him. And I think that's a correct decision, right? Like, I don't think he should have. But I put zero credence in what John Jones says about Tom Aspinall because he could have fought him and he didn't.
And he still shouldn't fight Tom, by the way.
Oh, he shouldn't, and he's never going to. And that's
go fight Pereira. That's the biggest fight. We've been saying this from day one. We never even had an issue with John calling for Pereira. It was this whole, even John said, like, and that's why I blame the UFC as much, if not more than John for this entire situation, because John had said in public settings multiple times, I will fight Alex without a belt. Like, take the belt from me. I'll just go fight Alex. And our whole stance was like, cool, but like, if you're going to be the heavyweight champion, you have to fight this guy. Like, you just have to. Like, that's why we have an interim championship to begin with, so we could eventually unify the belts. That's why the whole Stipe fight was ridiculous. That's why, like, even rebooking that was a disaster. They should have
every part of that fight was
it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. So this could have all been avoided in a whole different way, and who knows? We'll see what happens with Tommy A when they run this back with Cyril Gane.
Again, and we just don't need to relitigate this, but like that's the other thing too. It's like, okay, sure, he's a one trick. Like, I'm not saying he's not a one trick pony. He might be. That one trick has been awesome. It's been a super good trick, right? Like, it's worked against everybody. He didn't lose this fight. It's not like he was losing a fight for 50. It was they fought for 4 minutes.
And it was closer than people are giving it credit for, by the way.
Sure, I agree. But like, he was losing the round, but they fought for 4 minutes. I don't know if you guys know this. You'll never believe this, Mike, because I don't know. I one time watched John Jones lose the first 2 rounds of a fight to a guy named Alexander Gustafsson. I watched him lose 3 rounds to Dominic Reyes, and then he won the fight. Sometimes you don't have your A game, and then you overcome. That could have happened. Maybe it didn't happen. The idea that we can take this as a loss and learn anything from it is it's frustrating. And like, I get that John was always going to do this because John has an agenda. Again, we don't have to listen to what John Jones says about Tom Aspinall. Especially because like this isn't even necessarily John's take, though it's kind of implied in his messaging. Again, I think John could absolutely beat Tom Aspinall. I think that fight is genuinely a coin toss. The idea that what Cyril Gane did shows that John would run through Tom is one of the sillier takes, because I don't know if you guys know this. John Jones and Cyril Gane are not remotely similar fighters. So like, maybe he could run through him. I don't think that if he runs through him, it looks anything like Cyril Gane's 4 minutes of, success against Tom. It's just a very, very strange thing. I wish we could stop talking about these two dudes who are never going to fight. I wish John Jones would retire like he said he was going to do and be out of the sport. I'm very done with him. He's taken up too much of our time in life.
DJ Shorty, I will say Randy Brown still is one of the more fun KOs of the year. It's true. Lazy, I can't even remember Randy's last fight. I think I have podcast brain. It was the Nicholas Dalby fight at UFC Kansas City. That fight friggin' rocked.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Nicholas Dalby and Randy Brown I don't remember if Randy Brown beat Brian Battle or not. I know he lost, but I don't remember if I thought he won that fight.
I thought he won. I thought Randy
won. It feels like maybe, but I don't know.
It was a weird one. But yeah, the Dalby fight rocked. It was the fight of the night. You could have easily double bonused Randy because that knockout was sick.
Oh, I do recall.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I like the main event this week. It's a bit of a strange one. Just because I think Bonfim is ranked. Randy Brown is not, but he's in the mix ish. I don't know what the winner is fighting for. Somebody asked me if Gabriel Bonfim wins, can he jump to the top, up near the top of the welterweight? I was no, dude, he's not remotely near the mix at welterweight. Welterweight's got too many guys. That's not really fair to him in some senses.
I thought he lost his last fight.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not really
the splitty, but I thought he lost. Yeah.
But it's a win over Randy Brown is that probably just holding position. Maybe he can get I don't even know. Daniel Rodriguez, I don't know who he can get. So it's a weird one in that it feels oddly low stakes for a main event, but the fight itself is kind of fun. I think it's a fun one.
Michael, I want to see Tom and Derek Lewis. Where were you friggin' 4 months ago when I was screaming that on top of all the rooftops? After he beat Talos Teixeira, I was like, just throw that dude in there with Tom Aspinall. It's way more fun. And most of you were just like, oh, it's a stupid take. He's ranked this. Who cares? Do you think we'd be living in this world right now where the heavyweight championship is in flux and Tom Aspinall is one of the most, he's in such a strange position? Guess what? If he fought Derek Lewis, that fight would have had finality. It would have been over and done with in the first 3 minutes. Oh, we would have had a winner. We would have had a loser.
One way or the other.
And see, just listen to me sometimes. It doesn't have to be the most. There is no meritocracy in the heavyweight division right now. Okay? Just do the fun thing. It was important to get Tom out there fighting.
There hasn't been meritocracy in the heavyweight division in a long time.
Since Francis fought Cyril Gane. That was the last time that we actually had
that's it.
Yeah. What's your take on RDR saying he just effed up? So RDR spoke to our good friends over at Submission Radio. Dennis did a great job. Here's what RDR had to say in regards to the loss to Brendan Allen. Most importantly, I effed that up. I effed it up big time. In training camp, looking back, I was just pushing myself way too far. I was feeling slow, very run down, very tired after every session and during every session. To be honest, even in the Robert Whittaker camp, I wasn't even feeling like myself in the last couple of weeks, but I was very stubborn as a Dutchman is supposed to be, and I pushed myself, kept pushing myself, kept going harder and harder and harder, and that's what showed in the fight. One thing I did not see, Jed. One thing I did not see, Jed, from this interview, and hopefully the clip comes up and you get credit for it. I did not see RDR respond to a possible fight with Dominic Reyes at 205 pounds, which should absolutely happen. So
no, but he did talk about going up to light heavyweight.
Oh, he did. Okay, good.
He did. So I pulled it up. AK wrote it up for us this morning. And so I'll give you the quotes right now. One of the things I've done is a DEXA scan to figure out my lean mass is. I'm a little heavy for an average middleweight, so it's a consideration to go to light heavyweight, and I think I will in the future. But then again, I've been able to make it 5 times this year in 11 months. 4 times I did extremely well after the weight cut. I was close to being 100%. So I do think there's still a future for me at middleweight, although it may not be where I finish my career.
I don't like that.
He's not wrong on principle, right? Everything he said is accurate. And I think that he could continue to cut and have success. I don't think he could continue to cut and fight at the pace he has been fighting at, which we've already, broken down a lot. And I think that his road to a title shot at middleweight and his matchups are just way more difficult than a light heavyweight. But like on principle, he's not wrong. And yeah, dude, he's saying the thing that I immediately thought, and that people were like, "You're just an RDR stan," which is true. Like that's just a fact. So I can't, buck the allegations there. But it's just like, yeah, man, that looked to me like a dude who'd cut weight 5 times in 11 months and cut a stuff load of weight, trying to be better about my language. And like at some point in the interview, he was like, dude, I still get tired, like right now. I'm like, yeah, because you killed your body 5 times in the span of 12 months. It's like, think about it in those terms. And I think that is always just a better way to view it, because like every fighter who is cutting significant amount of weight, they're killing themselves. They're actively harming their body, and to do so that often and that frequently, that has ramifications. I absolutely think Brendan Allen could do the same thing to him under perfect circumstances. Not taking this one away from Brendan Allen, but I don't think that was the best RDR as a direct result of this. And I wish he was a little more, to your point, of like more on my line of thinking, like definitively, whereas he's right in the middle a little more than I like. But I get it. Fighters are who they are.
I just wish he'd be like, look, man, the realistic point of where I'm at in my career is that if I continue to fight a middleweight, I'm going to have to win a shitload of fights before I go fight for a belt.
And that's going to take several years, because I can't win I can't win 5 fights in a year at middleweight. That's just not reasonable.
Yeah. And he's going to have to win.
I can't make that cut that many times. And
he's going to have to win 5 fights to get back in this position.
So that would take me 2 years. Whereas I could go to light heavyweight and win 2 fights and fight for a title.
Yep. 100%.
And I could fight those 2 fights in the span of 3 months, because the weight cut is just substantially less for him.
Yep. A few more. Does the winner...
Similarly, this is not at all related. So we can cut this. I love you. I love you so much. You mean more to me than maybe any member of my like direct family or my personal friend group. You stop this nonsense, Yuri Prochazka. I don't give a 2 toots about you going to middleweight. Stop it. There's no need for this at all. Stay at light heavyweight. Bad Yuri. Very bad Yuri.
I gotta tell you, I am stunned to hear you say this.
Bad Yuri. I don't need him at middleweight. He's enormous.
He can fight DDP. It's the fight you've always wanted. We're so close
but he'll
now.
Be dead. He can't make that. Like, he can't make it in a way that's conducive. One, he would be so much worse at middleweight. He is a chaos agent who succeeds largely because his chin is super good, and people don't realize it because he got knocked out twice. His chin's incredible. Like, his chin just won't be nearly as good if he cuts to 185, because he's going to have to remove an appendage to make it. Stop it. You are at absolute worst, the 3rd best dude in the world at 205. And the guy who's beaten you twice, he ain't there for long. Wait it out, my brother. We're not doing this middleweight stuff. It's nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, he's fighting for the title in his next fight, regardless.
Yeah, just wait. Don't, and all this, like, once I get the belt, I'll go. No, you should be trying to go to heavyweight, which sucks. Fight Tom Aspinall. Don't fight Hamzat, because you'll be dead before you get into the cage.
A couple more that we'll get out of here. Does the winner of Sean Brady versus Michael Morales get a title shot? That's going down next week. Great card, great event. We won't have a lot of negative things to say about UFC 322. That's for sure.
Probably not, which is a bummer. I think there's one world in which it happens. I don't think the world is that the winner fights the winner of JDM Islam. I don't think that's remotely possible, frankly.
I'm not going to rule that out. I mean, we are 100% going to have to. We will not know the answer to this question until the end of the month. Okay? Because we need to see how this title fight plays out. If Islam Makhachev wins, 0 chance the winner of this gets title shot. 0.
I disagree.
All right,
This
I'm
is
glad
what
I'm glad we're on differing sides of this because I feel if Islam Makhachev wins, and look, he could retire as champion. I know that's what you're saying.
I'll say that you and I are on different sides of
But
this.
he
I
is
know
not
you
gonna-
have your thoughts. I
He's
think
gonna go
he's
fight
retiring.
He's gonna go fight Kamaru Usman. He's gonna call. He will legitimately, if he does not retire, he will get on the microphone and he will call out Kamaru Usman, and it'll hurt my friggin' soul.
Maybe.
He's got to do it. Why?
I think
there's no other
if
fight he would
fights
stick around for.
Oh, I think he'd stick around for Shavkat. Maybe, but I don't think he's sticking around. That's been my contention forever. I think it would be dumb to fight again. If not like the stupidest thing, because if he wins, it's huge. But like, dude, you've accomplished the thing. Just walk away. If Islam wins, I think it is more likely than not that he retires. I think, he won't retire in the cage necessarily, or I think Khabib will be like, buddy, let me tell you, I walked away. And now Ronda Rousey's out here saying that people are doing things to me because I walked away. It's a good position to be in. Walk away sooner. It's a better thing. Like, you've done everything you can. Let's just hang it up and let's move on to the, you and me coach together, blah, 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 or whatever. I think it's more likely than not that if Islam wins, he retires. And if he retires, then Sean Brady can be, or Michael Morales can be in a vacant title fight against whoever it is, whether it be Kamaru Usman or, I don't think the Leon Edwards Carlos Pratis winner is not really in this mix right now, but like whether it's just Sean Brady Shavkat or Ian Machado Gary, where like if he beats Bilal or whatever, like,
yeah,
I think that can then happen. But outside of that, I don't. Jack Della ain't fighting the winner of this fight. I don't think under any circumstances. Islam ain't fighting the winner of this fight under any circumstances, I think, which makes it weird, but sort of, just how things are at welterweight right now.
Yeah, I would love to know what's happening with Shavkat. No one really seems to know. I hope
he shows up next weekend. That if I'm in Shavkat's corner, I'll be like, dude, let's go to New York. Just be cage side. Just do it. Maybe nothing happens, but
just
there's no harm in being there.
We haven't seen him.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was.
What if is there a backup fighter for next week? I'd say, what if this is the Colby Covington out of nowhere? He just weighs in as the backup fighter. We're like,
incredible.
Oh my God, Shaw, he's back. Play the music. He's back. That would bang.
Awesome. That would be friggin' fantastic. But unfortunately, I think if he does, if he shows up, I think that's like the best thing he could do to at least be like, oh yeah, there he is. But there's like no update on him whatsoever. And unfortunately, the way this year has gone for this division, I think he's going to have to fight again. So tough scenes when he did the UFC a solid and fought Gary. But yeah, if Ian Gary goes out there and dusts up Bilal, like he's going to be in position A no matter what happens with Brady Morales. I think if Gary wins like a close, non-thrilling splitty and Brady or Morales like just runs over the other, it's a good place to be. As long as Islam doesn't win the belt.
You gotta, if you're Brady and Morales, you need to enter this fight thinking that it's time to put on a show because it's the best bet you got.
Yep.
I don't think it's a great bet, honestly, but I know it's a weird take. I don't think Shavkat's dead in this. I think that he's been gone for a while, and that's bad. And a lot of things have happened. I don't think he's dead here. Welterweight it's a cluster, and it is hard to predict how it's going to shake out.
Yeah, Usman Shavkat would be like terrific matchmaking.
Unless Shavkat weighs in, dude, I hope so. I haven't thought of this until just this, like that moment. If Shavkat weighs in as backup fighter, that would be incredible. I would rock so hard.
Ace Boogie, thank you. Why not give Movsar the shot now, given Volk is his most difficult matchup? And if Movsar loses, the UFC could say we did the thing, now back of the line.
Why not?
I've been saying this for a friggin' year.
I think it's going to happen. This is not based on any internal thing. In fact, I've heard some rumors that this is not going to happen. I'm going to manifest it. I'm just going to keep saying it. Sometimes you got to do the deserved title fight that people don't want. We let Leon Edwards fight for a title, and no one wanted that. Shit, Tyron Woodley sat out for 18 months and got to fight for a title, and no one really wanted that either, you know? Bilal, nobody really wanted Bilal to fight for a title, and it happened. You got to do it sometimes. You got to eat your vegetables. We desperately need the fiber that comes with this fight. Like, we need some leafy greens in our diet, and I am still holding out hope that they will do that.
I hope so. This is the fight Volk wants. To his credit, this is the one he's calling for. He wants the undefeated guy. And I got to tell you, the public sentiment is on the Movsar side right now after Diego Lopez beat John Silva. Because even the mere mention of Diego Lopez getting a title shot right now is just pissing off everybody. Like, we just did this, and I think it would be ridiculous if he gets a title shot after beating John Silva. As fun as that fight was, and as great as that performance was, you just fought him and lost. So win one more. Let's give it. There's got to be at least a year separation before we run this shit back. But give it to Movsar, man. Like, this is perfect. This is perfect. Because either way, if Volk beats Movsar, then you don't have to give him the shot again. If Movsar wins, then you throw him in there with Diego Lopez. That's a big fight. That's a rematch of a very close fight. Like, it's a win-win for the UFC. So I don't understand. There's no other fight that makes sense to me.
I need it to happen because I need to know how good Alexander Volkanovski is. Like, I know in general how good he is historically, certainly, but I don't know if he's the best featherweight on earth. I know that he's kind of not, because Ilia Topuria could probably make 145 again, but he's he didn't beat the top guy. And so I don't know how much credence to put into his win over Diego Lopez, in the same way that I didn't know how much credence to put into Jose Aldo's second win over Frankie Edgar when he reclaimed the belt because Conor left it. Like, I don't know where he stands, and I would know a lot more. Then the thing that concerns me the most, Mike, we're not really talking about it. I don't know if this is true or not. Absolutely speculative. This might be Volkanovski's last fight. It's entirely in the realm of possibility that Alexander Volkanovski is like, hey, it's Sydney. What else do I have to accomplish in this sport? I'm never going to fight for a lightweight belt again. I make billions of dollars doing all the other things in Australia. How much longer do I want to keep doing this? If I keep going, I already went long enough to lose, because if you compete long enough, you will lose. That is the math of the sport. I've already done that. Now, do I Anderson Silva this and I just keep coming back and keep coming back? It would have made sense in a lot of ways to just leave on the Lopez win. But, I want to do a swan song in Sydney. Here it is. And if that's the case, and they give him Diego Lopez or Yair Rodriguez, just like a total, on the one hand, sure, let a legend go out on top. I can't be that mad about it. On the other, God, that's a fraudulent fight and makes no sense and is totally baseless for what's happening and would frustrate me to no end. But I can understand, like, we don't really want to burn his last fight on Movsar. Like, I do get that as well. It's just weird. And again, that might not even be true. Maybe Volk wants to keep fighting. I don't know. But it would make a lot of sense if I'm Volk to retire in Sydney in February. That would make all the sense in the universe to me.
Yeah. Max versus Steve Garcia would be fire. I know what you're trying to do, RS40. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me all ramped up because
so we're clear, it would be fire. It will never happen, but it would be fire.
That fight will never in a billion years happen. It was the worst call out in a long time. I'm not gonna say it's the worst call out ever. And as I said out on to the next one, I have landed on the side of this was a worse call out than Joaquin Buckley calling out Conor McGregor. This is worse because he meant it from the depths of his soul, and Joaquin Buckley did it to piss people off. So terrible. I mean, just the worst. But I will say this. Steve Garcia has done a great job this week via the media being very realistic about where his career is, because I believe he was on Hawani's show. I think he talked to Anik and Florian about this as well, about like where I think Ariel asked him, like, will he fight for the belt in 2026? And he basically said, no, I have a lot of work to do. Yeah. I'm not like the big star. I don't feel like I'm going to get rushed up the rankings. And he's right. He's absolutely right. So good on him for that. We'll take two more, then we'll get out of here.
Let me just say this,
please,
Mike,
please.
because I was thinking about it. I won't like it. I won't. I won't like anything that's not Movsar because that's the fight I would like to see. I'll understand a lot of things. The one I would understand the most that I would be I won't be okay with it, but that I can begrudgingly say, yeah, makes sense. If they do Volk Aljo in Sydney, that makes sense to me.
I can see that. I don't think they'll do it, but
I don't think they will. And
I'd be more okay with that than Diego.
But I can squint my eyes and be like, I get it. It'll just be I get it. It's not the best, but I understand. I won't understand Yair. I won't understand Diego Lopez. I would understand Lerone Murphy, but somehow he just fell out of this conversation. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. I don't think he deserves it.
I don't either.
Very loaded word, but like, I'm fine with him getting it.
If Volk was going to fight in December, I was fine with that fight. Totally fine. Because that was the whole thing was like, well, I'll see you in December, Lerone. And I was like, all right, well, if we're going to flip him around in December, cool. Like, we get a Volk fight in December. All right, I'm in. But now that time has passed and things have happened, and Movsar might be in play.
Other spinning elbows have happened, and we forget. Yeah,
that's true.
I wanted to be Movsar. I would accept Lerone Murphy. I would begrudgingly accept Aljamain Sterling. I don't think that would be right, but I would get it. And anything else is just like, get the F out of here. That's Garbo.
That's what about Merab?
That'd be fine. Okay. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that would be fine. I think Merab, to the extent that anyone deserves these things, I think Merab, should he beat Petr Yan, my stance has always been 5 title defenses and you can move up and get another one. That I think that is should be an unwritten rule of double champ status. But 4 with an incredible year. He'll be fighter of the year this year, assuming he beats Merab. I couldn't be upset with that.
2 more. Are low ticket sales to blame for the Paul Tank cancellation? No.
Unlikely.
It has nothing to do with it.
It might have made it like slightly easier, but I think they were going to do this regardless. Here's
what I've learned about Jake Paul fights. The ticket sales never go well. Never, ever, ever go well. Up in till the week of the fight, we look at those Ticketmaster maps and they all look identical. Nate Diaz fight, Tyron Woodley rematch, all of them. They look like that. And let me tell you, I have been in the building for both. I was in the building for both of those fights. There was not an empty seat in the house. And people were there right for the opening prelim, especially the Diaz fight. The Diaz fight, I don't know if I've ever been in an arena that had more energy for a fight. And I've been in there for some good ones. I've been at MSG for events. I was there for Masvidal Diaz with the hype that fight had. That place is electric. So they're walk up traffic in week of, and maybe it's they lower ticket prices. It doesn't matter. They don't give a shit about any of that stuff.
Yeah, I think they do paper, but yes, with you. I've been to 2 Jake Paul. One was during COVID where they did not allow people.
The Triller experience.
Yeah, there were 2,000 fans that won a contest, and then media. And despite this fact, media was it was insane. We weren't remotely near anything. It was wild. And then one in Tampa, and both times, the one didn't count, but the other time a bunch of people were there.
Yeah. We'll end with Ace Boogie. Would free them up to do Yair, Diego, Sterling, Murphy, and Silva versus Garcia / Allen. God, I wish Garcia called out John Silva. That would have been a terrific call out.
I would have, but he still might get it. So, it all comes out in the wash.
He's going to get Patricio Pitbull, which is fine.
That arguably is better for him because he will definitely win, and it's a big name.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I agree.
The Tank thing, the Jake Tank thing, there's just there's just no justification for putting that fight on.
No.
And no matter what you feel like Jake feels like deep down, their entire business model is building women's boxing. And to put this fight on after, especially these new allegations, would be really bad. And trust me, this is a guy who was like packed and ready to fly to Miami next week. I was about to spend a week in freaking Miami to go cover that fight. And then I had to go cancel all the travel. So like, the fight is just dumb. I mean, it's not like I was there to be like, oh, I can't wait to watch this incredible boxing match. It was just the spectacle of it all. And they do crazy shit when it comes to spectacles. So,
yeah, it's all been very weird. I didn't hate the fight as much as many people did. I was actually kind of interested when you set aside the numerous terrible things that are alleged about Tank Davis. This is obviously a thing that could have happened. Like, you sort of assume that risk if you're getting into business with Tank Davis, that, yeah, this could happen. Be like, I don't know, I was poking the snake with a stick and it bit me. I can't believe it. You know, like, I walked under this flock of seagulls and poop got on my head. How could I have foreseen this coming? It's like, yeah, this is actually a pretty believable thing. I think I don't love that it, like, and I don't really care, but like the moment this happened, they should have been like, it's off. They really drug their feet. I don't know why. I think probably it was they just were looking for a replacement, that they knew the fight was going to be off.
That's what I would venture to guess.
I believe that's what happened, but they could have just been like, yeah, we're not going to do this because of this. Now we're looking for a replacement. Honestly, my biggest takeaway from this whole thing, and Mike, tell me if you agree, I kind of think Francis is stupid. Because I get that, like, I understand his contention that it is disrespectful to be called out, right, by Jake Paul. And I don't for one moment believe that Jake Paul would box Francis Ngannou. I just don't believe that. I will believe that happens the moment they touch gloves in the ring together. But, like, you were given a gift here, right? My name's in the hat, in the mix, to float yourself, to big up yourself, to do something. And I just don't feel like to at least, and he got some headlines, right? Like, he certainly did. I just feel like you could have been like, yeah, man, that's not, like, instead of being like, it's disrespectful, I have no interest in fighting Jake Paul, which was his line, been like, yeah, I'll take the money to kill this dude, but, like, do you want to see a sanctioned murder? Because that's what will happen. That's bad. And I think he should have done that. I think he misplayed this.
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
I was surprised he reacted that way. I really was. Now I don't know who's gonna fight, like, because they're gonna do this. They're gonna book another event like before the end of the year.
It's gonna be Nate in December,
and that would be a travesty. If
great.
If Nate was gonna be the guy. If Nate was going to step in next week and fight him, would have been 100% for it. Like, short notice, he steps in. Like, this is a big deal. Like, because honestly, no one cared about the Tyron Woodley rematch. It was a close fight, but I forget who he was supposed to fight before. I'm trying to remember.
I'll look it up. I don't remember either.
I'm trying to remember.
No, was that Tommy? That was Tommy the first.
That was Tommy
when
Fury.
He was supposed to fight Tommy.
Fury.
Yeah,
you're right. You're absolutely right.
That was Tommy. Yeah,
it was the Tommy Fury fight. Tommy couldn't
forgot because they did end up fighting.
Yeah,
Tommy couldn't get a visa or whatever.
Yeah, so Tyron Woodley comes back in, and it became like that fight week like built it up, and any other time you went back to Woodley, like, no one would have cared. But the fact that he stepped in so quickly, we're like, all right, cool, like, bet.
It made sense. Totally made sense. If Nate had stepped in for next week, it would make sense.
And by all accounts, he said he was down. Even Jake said that, commenting on some social media posts, like, shout out to Nate. Like, he wanted to step in and fill the spot. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was like a Netflix decision or whatnot, but Nate would have been a much more interesting build. I'll tell you that. So, but now, like, if you're going to delay it and then go back to Nate, I don't think it has the same. I mean, it'd be great for Nate. Like, good for him to get a bag and get a chance to get that one back. And But
yeah, maybe they do like a Darren Till or something. Like there are options. I don't think that's likely.
You have to go big. I think you have to go like really big here. Like if you're gonna cancel this whole event, I think you got to go try to get Joshua in there or something. I don't know.
You don't fight Joshua. I understand that there are some arguments for it. I don't. The Jake Paul train works because he hasn't been laid out. If he fights Anthony Joshua, he's going to get laid out in a bad way. If he fights Francis Ngannou, he's probably going to get laid out in a bad way. And so, like, you are slaughtering the prized cow, right? You ain't getting no more milk out of that cow. That cow is flank steaks. And so, but like, yeah, the whole thing was curious. And I just didn't like Francis's response to it because, like, I don't know. I don't know what Francis is hoping for, waiting. Like, this to me was the gift that he would have begged for, right? Like, I don't think it would have happened.
Yeah. But
like, maybe you can get, a bronze bomber fight. Like, that might be possible. But let me tell you, you go floor Jake Paul again. Don't think it would have happened still. You definitely can get, a bronze bomber fight. You do any number of things with that. So I think if I were his corner, I'd have been like, here's what you do. You just laugh it off and be like, that kid will never fight me. The kid would never fight me, because either he doesn't fight you and you get to be like, yeah, he would never fight me, or he fights you and you knock his ass out. Or like that's the win-win. And instead you set up a situation where Jake Paul can start tweeting and be like, bro, we offered you the fight and you turned it down. And like, you just look, it's not as good a look. I think he handled it wrong.
Someone saying it was Hasim Rahman Jr. who was replaced. That is not true. Tommy Fury was the opponent for that fight. And then Tommy Fury was the new opponent. They were going to rebook Tommy Fury again for August of 2022. And then, Fury was out due to quote unquote medical issues. The August one was a travel ban issue. So they brought in Hasim Rahman Jr. To fight on that card. And then that was off. And then that led us to Anderson Silva a couple months after that. So that's what went down with this whole crazy Jake Paul situation. And with that said, Jed, any closing thoughts?
No. I like this weekend's card better than last weekend's card, though I bet we won't talk about it for nearly as long, because my guess is we're not going to have scandal attached. Knock on wood. And then 322 cracks. So that's dope. I saw Begonia last night. Highly recommend. That movie's awesome. That's all I got.
All right. Well, we'll have a preview show tomorrow. Stay tuned. Probably like 3-ish Eastern time, but we'll let you know. For Jed, I am Mike Heck, back next week before UFC 322, and I'm excited. Good night, everybody.
Love y'all.